I finally beat Dark Souls 3. I died a lot. I died probably more than I've ever died in a single game. And I stuck with it, and it is an addicting game. And I'm going to talk about why it's addicting. And this is really about a book that I just finished reading. So the book is called Irresistible by Adam Alter, and it's Irresistible, The Rise of Addictive Technology and the Business of Keeping Us Hooked. Adam Alter is an associate professor of marketing and psychology at NYU Stern. The book talks about a lot of different things. I wanted to read it because I wanted to just learn more about phone addiction and using phones less. I do think a lot of us use our phones too much, and I mean me. I can get stuck, and I just wanted to learn a little more about that and see like what is actually unhealthy and what is, I guess, like okay usage. And it talks about more than just phones. There's different things, just different digital things and behavioral addiction. But I was going to talk about a few things. So the first one is Flappy Bird. There's a story in there about Flappy Bird, and it explains why it's so addictive, and a lot of the initial reviews and part of the reason that it was taken down is that it was just this too addictive of a game, and the creator I guess struggled with knowing that he created something so addicting. Some of the reviews said, I just couldn't stop playing for hours and hours and hours, which is a good thing in some cases, or like, for a game to keep you engaged that long is good, but to a point, and at a certain point it is detrimental. So back to it also talks about just blue light exposure and what it does to us. Having too much screen time, it affects sleep patterns, and there are different tools that you can use, like Flux on your laptop, or there's different ways to enable this on your phone, like night mode, which can be really helpful for when you're using it later in the evening. Of course, like no screen time would be better. There's this excerpt from the book. In 2008, adults spent an average of 18 minutes on their phones per day. In 2015, they were spending 2 hours and 48 minutes per day. I would estimate I've been higher than that. I'm probably around that right now. But we definitely are on our phones a lot, and the author talks about how he used, I think it was Moment or Freedom, one of those apps, to track just how much he was using it, and it's always surprising. I think I used one of those as well. I think it was last year, and I realized I was picking up my phone hundreds of times, not just like over 100. It was like 200 or 300 times in the day, and it affects things a lot. A lot of people are, and if you're including like computer screens and you work at a desk, plus your phone usage and TV, a lot of people have more screen time than they have sleep time, which is a scary thing to think about. Some other things in the book, just gonna run through this. It's definitely worth checking out, but there's open loops and storytelling, and this is pretty cool, just knowing how our brains are wired for story, and that this is why good stories have not quite a formula, but a structure to them, where you open up a loop, and throughout the story you're waiting for it to close. So they talked about a few different like narrative things. So there's a section about Serial, the podcast, and that was just this huge open loop where you were wondering what happened to Adnan, and within each episode, of course, there's an open loop. So stories will have this, and people were just binge listening to this. And then with TV, they talk about Sopranos, and this is series wide. There's this open loop, and with Tony Soprano, and it stays open through the end. And whether you think it's a good ending or not, it is memorable in that people still do talk about Some people would say like, oh, that's not good to be known for people that hate how it ended, but can't deny that it is still like something that people remember is how it ended, because it just kept this loop open. And then the book also does, of course, have a lot about different apps through the years. Instagram, hot or not. There's some talk about the invention of like the like button and how that had different like social impacts and changed the way people that were using different apps. And then, of course, like getting like social validation online has evolved over the years. There was a mention of, I didn't know about this, something called like a Cinderella law, where I think it's like kids, something, you can't go online from midnight to 6 a.m. So yeah, definitely check the book out if you're interested in behavioral addiction, in particular, like how technology is affecting that. And there is a lot about how this is present in games and how gamification of apps. So like some of those game elements were abstracted out and applied to different things. And before that, as an example, like frequent flyer programs are a type of gamification before, like way before that term was made, and it's from the 70s. So you can't even. It was before like a lot of video games. So these elements are present in other things. And yeah, just talking about like Dark Souls again. I gave it some thought. I was thinking about like what as I was playing it, I would wonder I'd be okay just like playing the same boss for 3 hours, just getting a little bit further every time, and sometimes not really, and sometimes I was just grinding away. And I thought about this. So this is what happens: you die in the game, and then I remember I just turned the, little rage quit, just turned the Xbox off. But then I came back and I got a warning about like, it's better for you to save before you leave the game. So what happens is you die and then you wait to load the stage. Even if you decided that's the last time that's my last attempt, you have to load the stage so that you can save and quit. But because you loaded the stage, you think about like, oh, that took, like 30 seconds. I may as well try again. You try again, you think you're gonna get it. You I can't imagine how many times I decided this is my last attempt, tried, then went through this thing again, where I had probably like 7 last attempts in a row. You just have to pick a good time to quit, and have the willpower to just stop right after loading the stage. And then that adds up to 70 hours of playing Dark Souls, and it was pretty fun all the way through. So yeah, that's just like one application of how things can be addictive. And I would say like that one is like a pretty harmless use of it, but it could be harmful in some cases. I mean, that's 70 hours. Like if that was 70 hours over like 4 days and I missed, I don't know, like a friend's wedding or a few days of work doing that, then that could be bad. But that was spread out over almost 3 months. So yeah, definitely check out this book, Irresistible, if you want to learn more about behavioral addiction, and if you want to know why you're stuck playing different games, and if you want to change that, you can definitely learn some things here. Thanks for checking this out. I hope I closed all those open loops that I hope I opened them in the first place.